Okay, so there are a variety of things that you can feed your bees. Honey is hotly contested in the beekeeping community. There's a lot of fear that by feeding bees honey, that there is the danger of transmitting disease from hive to hive. That hasn't been my experience in my years of beekeeping. I found that bees that survive on honey tend to be healthy and robust. But there's also the issue of the price point of feeding honey. So that's something to consider. There can be periods where there is a nectar dearth in the summer and you're doing intensive feeding for a while. So, you know, feeding that much honey can be cost prohibitive. The next option is a sugar syrup. And depending on the time of the year, we will make it a heavier or lighter syrup. I cannot stress to you enough that you want a plain white sugar, ideally white cane sugar, certified organic cane sugar, but please do not use a raw sugar, a turbinado, any of the brown sugars where the molasses is still attached to the sugar crystal. Bees are designed to process nectar and pollen, and their bodies just do not handle those caramelized sugars. And what ends up happening is you'll get your bees will get diarrhea. You'll see it on the front of the hive. It causes them tremendous digestive upset. So even though for human beings we like to think of having the more complicated carbohydrates as being better, this is not the case for bees. Your sugar syrups will be either a 4 cups of sugar to 1 cup of water when you're making it really thick and heavy, to all the way down to like a 1 to 3 when you're doing a really light, thin syrup. And you'll be able to talk to other beekeepers in your area about the level of the thickness of the sugar syrup that they do at various times of the year. You can provide that sugar syrup in a mason jar feeder. They call them Boardman feeders or front board feeders. Another thing that some families do when they want to be able to enjoy their bees on their deck or something is they'll put that feeder actually in their patio area or maybe on their deck so that the bees will come up to eat. And yes, in fact, they have to transport it back and forth, but it keeps that sugar syrup out of the hive, which then reduces the danger of inciting robbing. So there are a variety of ways you can feed sugar syrup. Some people like to do like a bird bath type pan where they'll put rocks in it. That is a fairly labor intensive kind of way, but the way that you engage with your bees is up to you. Another way that people like to feed their bees, and these are particularly during the winter when we want to really be able to let the bees stay closed and enjoy the heat that they've created and maintained in there. So we can make candy boards or fondant, which is really, really heavy sugar. And we'll provide a recipe for that we'll give you a link to. But the candy boards and the fondant are both solid and are great because bees don't drown in it. Again, you'll want to use just a plain white, ideally certified organic cane sugar. Cane sugar is the best choice. And then another choice that you can consider is pollen patties. There are some artificial pollen patties that are made out of weird corn and whatnot. I'm not an advocate of those. I think that it's important that we feed a species efficient diet. And there's just a bunch of weird stuff in the commercial pollen patties, but you are able to purchase bee pollen. I used to get it through Mountain Rose. They have a great product, and you can, there are a lot of recipes. Again, we'll share some of those on the links to this video, that you can make pollen patties from real pollen on your own. So again, if your bees are lacking in stores and you need a little bit to give them a little bit of extra help, I try to err on the side of conservative. The best bees are the bees that can live in our area on what nature offers, but they are like pets, they are domesticated, and so sometimes they definitely do need a little bit of help. Okay. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about today is the reality of stings. If you want to be a beekeeper and you think that you're going to get the best, fanciest jacket and the most protective gloves and that you're never going to get stung, I want to caution you against that mindset. Being stung is part of being a beekeeper. When I originally started keeping bees, the gentleman that was our mentor didn't tell us anything about, having veils or anything like that, and basically cautioned us that every time we would go into the hive, we needed to, if we were not accidentally stung, sting ourselves on purpose so as to develop the proper immune response in the body to be able to handle a sting, because there will be a time in your beekeeping career where you will drop a frame of bees that has thousands of bees on it, and you are going to get stung. And if you've never been stung before, you can put yourself in a dangerous situation. So when you do get stung, a bee stinger is like a little hypodermic needle with a little sac, white sac on the end that has a little muscle around it. And once that sac, the venom sac with the muscle, has pulled out of the bee's body and actually pulls the honeybee's intestine with it, the muscle that's on that venom sac then pulsates like a cardiac muscle would to deliver you that entire shot to make sure that you get the full venom that the bee had to offer. So you want to scrape the stinger away. You don't want to pinch it or squeeze it. That's like squeezing a bulb of venom right into your skin. So you want to scrape it away. You can use your hive tool, you can use a fingernail, but just be sure to scrape, not squeeze. People find that acids are helpful when they get a bee sting. It helps to break down those proteins. So some people will bring a little wedge of lemon out with them when they do their inspections, or maybe, have a little tub of vinegar that they take with a cotton ball. Anything that you can just, once you get the stinger out, apply a little bit of vinegar or a little bit of acid to that area, because you also want to not have the lingering pheromones of the venom sac, because that is part of what alerts the other bees that they may need to sting as well. So having some sort of acid will help to neutralize that, as well as make the pain hopefully less. Another thing that you can do if you are not well prepared when you go out to your beehive is you can find some plantain. And this is a plantain that we found just in the yard. It looks like just a real broadleaf weed, and has veins down each leaf. So this leaf here is what you want to look for. And then you just take that broad or narrow leaf plantain and pull it out of the ground and put it in your mouth and chew it up and make a poultice, and then you slap it right on that bee sting. And the narrow leaf plantain is, it has a drawing agent to it, so it will help to suck the venom out of your skin. Ice can also be helpful. Once you've got a sting, if it's somewhere really uncomfortable, I used to always get them in the fingers, and then my fingers would swell up, and that wasn't so fun. So ice can be helpful. If you're really experiencing quite a response, Benadryl is useful. And I also like to encourage beekeepers, stock Benadryl in your cupboard. If you have guests that come over and maybe they get a sting, and they don't have such a great reaction, Benadryl is a wonderful thing to have on hand. A lot of people are very nervous about people being allergic to bee stings. And the fantastic news is when people say they're allergic to bees, what they mean is they are allergic to stinging insects. And the stinging carnivores, the wasps and hornets and yellow jackets and those guys that are carnivorous, they have a much more powerful venom, and they also have a much more aggressive pheromone response than honeybees do. So when most people say someone died of bee stings, they probably died of yellow jackets, and they're just giving the honeybees a bad name. Certainly, if you believe you are allergic, that's something to consider. Probably means that beekeeping isn't a great fit for you, but always a good idea to proceed with an abundance of caution once you have bees at your home, so that your guests can be comfortable. And if you're one of your guests who is curious, because they always are, accidentally get stung, being able to offer them Benadryl is a kindness and a responsible way to be a beekeeper.